the Hamas group in Egypt. Thank you very much. Now, in other news, there's been some drama in Ukraine as 5 artillery shells hit a high-security prison on the outskirts of Donetsk in eastern Ukraine last night, sparking a riot in which 106 inmates escaped. 1 prisoner was killed, 5 were injured, and 2 guards were also hurt in the process. The Ukrainian government artillery has been pounding areas on the outskirts of the city held by pro-Russian separatists. Ukraine's prison service says 34 of the escaped inmates have now been returned to the prison. The authorities are trying to track down the others. Ukraine is now considering the possibility of allowing a humanitarian mission into the area as residents struggle without power or reliable sources of food. Many are facing great hardship in Donetsk and the city of Luhansk, taking refuge in basements and bomb shelters as well. Well, we'll take a quick break now, but when we come back on The World Today, we'll bring you an update on the Michael Brown shooting. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching The World Today on Channels Television. Now, 2 days after the murder of an unarmed black teenager by police, rioting has erupted in the U.S. state of Missouri. According to police, shops were looted, cars were vandalized, and a building was set alight as police tried to block off access to several areas of St. Louis. Now, the 18-year-old was shot on Saturday afternoon in Ferguson, a mainly black suburb of the city. He was shot several times after a struggle in a police car. The rioting erupted late on Sunday after thousands of people attended a candlelight vigil for Michael Brown. For now, authorities say they are still trying to clarify what happened exactly inside of the vehicle. The officer involved has been with the Ferguson Police Department for 6 years and has been placed on paid administrative leave. Now to our Africa stories. The question has been asked time and again what exactly it is that Africa hopes to get from the U.S. Africa Leader Summit, which concluded just a couple of days ago. And we have to bear in mind that billions of dollars have been invested in Africa. Well, our correspondent Amarachi Ubani was there and tells us more about those answers in this next report.
Africa is home to approximately 1.033 billion people in the world who live in 54 recognized sovereign states and countries. It has enormous resources including oil, diamonds, gold, iron, cobalt, uranium, copper, bauxite, silver, petroleum and cocoa beans, and also woods and tropical fruits. The exploration of these resources have presented the continent the opportunity of being the most coveted for many centuries. From the pre-colonial era to the period long after the independence of many of its countries, the attraction has always been access to these resources by many Western countries for development and economic growth. But the tide is changing. Africans are becoming more aware of their importance to the rest of the world, and instead of repelling interest, have encouraged them. And despite already existing partners in progress, such as China and Europe, Africa is making room for one more.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome...
At the first ever U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, hosted by President Barack Obama, over 40 African leaders sat to discuss the new partnership proposed by the U.S. With the theme, Investing in Africa's Future, ringing through the U.S. Africa Business Forum, the African Growth and Opportunity Act Ministerial, and meetings with U.S. and Africa civil society, the U.S. government explained why this partnership will be a win-win on both sides.
We don't look to Africa simply for its natural resources. We recognize Africa for its greatest resource, which is its people and its talents and their potential. We don't simply want to extract minerals from the ground for our growth. We want to build genuine partnerships that create jobs and opportunity for all our peoples and that unleash the next era of African growth. That's the kind of partnership America offers.
When the United States is home to some of the most innovative and well-known and respected companies in the world, and when Africa is already home to some of the fastest growing economies in the world and new leadership that is anxious to grab the future, we have to do more together. We have to partner, which is the theme of this conference, to invest in the next generation, to create good jobs for young Africans, to build a stronger middle class, to provide families with clean power and clean water, to build societies where an open exchange of ideas and information are the defining hallmark.
Despite the millions of dollars pledged towards power and infrastructure development, Africa's two main challenges, leaders do not want the continent to be taken for granted.
To put our views to the United States that would want the extension of a goal so that we could have a better kind of relationship between us. We now have an experience that we can discuss better as to what is it else that we need to do to better and consolidate and enhance our relations as the two. So it is, I think, an opportunity that came at an opportune time. And I'm sure we will, when we end this interaction, will be better placed to deal with our relations.
We need to continue building our capacities and strengthening our institutions to enable us avoid over-dependency that has been there for too long. But we have to avoid that by building capacities and cooperation and integration, people working together, so that we are able to own up to our mistakes, to our weaknesses, and own up to our solutions and contributing to our solutions, so that we can even tell our story.
During a press briefing at the end of the summit, President Barack Obama announced U.S. partnership with Africa in other areas, health and security.
The United States will provide additional equipment to African peacekeepers in Somalia and the Central African Republic. We will support the African Union's efforts to strengthen its peacekeeping institutions. And most importantly, we're launching a new African peacekeeping rapid response partnership with the goal of quickly deploying African peacekeepers in support of UN or AU missions. And we'll join with 6 countries that in recent years have demonstrated a track record as peacekeepers: Ghana, Senegal, Rwanda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Uganda.
This is not the first sort of meeting where African leaders gather to talk. Many times it's not the meetings, but implementation that end up being the challenge.
And we're looking forward to seeing all the great things that you do when you go back home. All right?
Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
In other news, a panel of medical ethics experts from the World Health Organization is meeting in Geneva to discuss the possible use of the experimental drugs to treat the Ebola virus. No vaccine or cure has been developed to date, and the disease has been causing a lot of concern in affected countries, particularly in West Africa. The latest figures put the death toll at nearly 1,000.
The WHO has said that the world's worst outbreak of Ebola, with 1,779 cases and 962 deaths, will likely continue for months as the region's healthcare system struggles to cope. It has appealed urgently for funding and emergency medical staff. British drug maker GlaxoSmithKline said on Sunday that a clinical trial of a vaccine was due to start shortly. 3 U.S. laboratories established to quickly make vaccines in the event of a public health threat also said they were standing by to support any U.S. effort to tackle Ebola. Meanwhile, Liberia's tough measures to contain the deadly Ebola outbreak are affecting both the economy and the daily lives of the country's villagers. Soldiers are enforcing quarantines in some regions of the country, and within many villages and towns, suspicion and fears are growing. Traders from across the local area usually gather in Johnny's town on the market day, but with desperate times, village elders have driven outsiders away from their town.
We hear that over radio that no public gathering. If you're 2 or 3 together, maybe you don't know who have encountered the virus. When you go around the person, maybe the same virus the person gets, you will get the same thing. Then it will spread. That's the reason why government said there are no public gathering. We're stopping them now. We are driving them from here. We don't want to market here until otherwise order.
To try and contain Ebola, the government wants people to stay out, especially in the worst affected areas like Johnny's town. Armed security at checkpoints has stopped travel between districts, but the measures are too tough for some.
Life is getting very difficult. Now some of us need to move around, buy something to the market, ride motorbike and do other activities. Now the government is saying that everybody remain home. Everybody stays to their various places. And now how do you go and make your life? And now we need to move around, make life and make money. And if you make money, you get something to buy and you eat. Now they are saying no market, though it is very bad, very difficult.
The emergency measures may be deeply unpopular in some communities, but the Liberian government says they are absolutely crucial to try and contain the Ebola outbreak and slow down the rate of new infections. This man is a health officer in Vonjama, a small city that serves as the capital of Liberia's Lofa County. He manages a hotline for suspected Ebola cases. But the nearest treatment facility is a 2-hour drive away, and he only has 1 ambulance at his disposal.
We have only 1 case management center, which is in Foya. Vonjama alone sometimes have 10, 20, 30 cases. In a community, you receive call from this side, you receive call from this side, you receive call from this side. When I call to Foya, what is the capacity of you receiving patients today? Tell me no space today to receive any new case. And it becomes whole day I receive call from the community. I say when we have cases, we should inform you. We are reporting that people are here sick, people are here sick, people are here sick, and you are no longer coming to pick up these patients. So that becomes a serious trouble for me.
International donors have pledged millions of financial assistance to combat the spread of the disease. But in Liberia's rural communities, the benefit of that money is yet to be felt.
Now, just before we call it a day, who would have thought that a cat could command the presence of 1,000 people just for the fact that he's got one mood? Well, if you're a fan or familiar with the grumpy cat, then this shouldn't shock you in the least.
More than 1,000 people gathered at a bookstore in Manhattan yesterday for their chance to meet Grumpy Cat. The famed Falfalane is on a tour of North America to promote her new book, The Grumpy Guide to Life, Observations by Grumpy Cat. At a Barnes & Noble bookstore in New York City, the small blue-eyed fauna was greeted with a chorus of owls and ohs. The cat posed for pictures with her cheerful fan. Judy, one of the first in line to meet Grumpy Cat, detailed the cat's rise to fame.
She was originally named Tartar Sauce, and just by accident, when she had like a video on YouTube, and it went viral, and because of her expressions, she became Grumpy Cat. And it's just really, really special. You see, like, she's always like very, very laid back and everything, but she has all, because of these expressions, that it makes you smile. You can't be grumpy. I try to have a grumpy face, but you can't, because when you look at Grumpy Cat, so beautiful and so laid back and so calm and special, you just have to smile.
Another fan, Hanami, added, "It's like everyone is grumpy at some point in their life. And she's so cute and fluffy."
She's so adorable looking and grumpy all the time.
In addition to a picture with the cat, fans with the book received a post-stamp autograph. Judy, thoroughly excited to meet Grumpy Cat, offered a song in her honor.
If you're grumpy and you know it, go away. If you're grumpy and you know it, go away. If you're grumpy and you know it, go away.
The Grumpy Guide to Life, Observations by Grumpy Cat, is Philly's second book. Her first, Grumpy Cat, a grumpy book, spent 10 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list.
I'm trying to look as grumpy as I can, but just like she said, you can't look a grumpy cat and stay grumpy. I'm trying, but it's obviously not working. Well, that's where we leave it on the world today. Thank you for watching. I'm Cynthia Araya. Up next is Sports News.